Good Wednesday afternoon to you. Welcome to the Jon Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH. It's a pleasure to be with you and a pleasure, of course, to be with my co-host, my partner, Jason Gaunt, Sanchez Gaunt Capital Management. Big J, happy hump day to you.
Yeah. Happy, I don't know. I'm kind of confused
Scott Bissett
market-wise, to be
calling the
completely
market
honest.
down
Yeah, is
day.
it
I
good? Is it
mean,
it didn't feel as strong as it was today, but at the same time, we had a decent amount of positive words from, I guess how depending on how you read it, but positive words I would say from Scott Bessent, which helped the market a little bit, probably also gave some credibility to the Fed continuing their interest rate lowering campaign, given concerns around jobs and such. Seeing the 10-year right around 4% again. I think it's getting housing probably. I'm sure Dwight will be happier here soon, but it continues to climb the wall of worry. Every dip is being bought, which is a good thing versus
yes.
rallies being sold, which is very symptomatic of a bull market. So
Absolutely, it is. Well, we got a lot to talk to you about the stock market side of things today, as Jason just basically alluded to. And of course, we're going to talk about basically the Trump administration announcing today they're looking at 10,000 plus permanent job losses because of the government, not because of the government shutdown, but they're going to do simultaneously with the government shutdown. And I thought for sure, Jason, we'll touch on this in a minute. I thought for sure the market would hiccup a little bit on that news and just didn't even pay attention to it whatsoever. So either they're saying, it's not going to happen, or, oh, if it does, okay, big deal. What is 10,000 among our normal, 200,000, or used to be 200,000 average monthly job creation. We're nowhere near that anymore. But the bottom line is the market didn't get upset about it. So, it's just, like I said, it's kind of being Teflon coated at this point.
I think you're
So,
spot on. It's either looking through it, as in it's
mhm.
temporary, even though they say it isn't, or it will cause more ammo for Fed to cut rates, which will be stimulative to the economy in whole. Sort of, unfortunately, a feeling of sacrificing some for the greater
For the
growth
good of
of.
others.
Yeah, right. Whatever analogy you want to use, but I
We
think
didn't
that's
say that,
kind of
folks. That's just
no.
the theory. Yeah.
It's more so like the market reading
No one to
through it
lose
to
their job.
say that's bad news, but it may be good news from a more steroids towards the pool. I mean, you see gold, you see silver with rates lower. It just that trade continues to climb higher. It's pretty incredible.
Exactly. Well, yesterday, Jay, I know you obviously you weren't on the shows, Corey and Dwight, but I didn't get a chance to see the numbers today. But speaking of the Fed, as of yesterday, there was a 96.7% probability, according to the CME Fed Watch tool, of an October rate cut. And I think the day before I saw for December, and they're still hovering right around the 90% mark. So the market is very, very convinced that we've got two more, at least 0.25% cuts ahead of us for the rest of the year. So that's another major driving factor that, I think most of us have kind of forgot about. It's like it's become so expected. And like Dwight said, he goes, John, the bond market and as well as the mortgage market and mortgage-backed securities and so on and so forth, it already has it priced in. So he's like,
Yeah.
what can we do to get these rates down? And I think all the good news is out. Like I said, when you see 90% plus probability, pretty good odds that it's going to happen in historical sense.
It's true. And I mean, on the back of that, banks reporting earnings today, very good
Blowout
numbers
earnings,
from all
blowout
those.
earnings.
Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, PNC was lower, but I think overall the big guys, the Goldmans, the Morgan Stanleys, the commentary continues to be better. We haven't had Goldman yet, right? But
No, we had Goldman this morning.
was it? Yeah, I know I was
Goldman, or
watching
yesterday,
B of A.
Goldman yesterday, Wells
Okay.
Fargo yesterday, today was Bank of America.
Yeah. And
And
JP Morgan we've had, like Jamie
yesterday,
Dimon
yeah.
numbers were blowout, even though he continues to be a bit of a boo bear. But semis act strong. The circular reference error we talk about with the open AI somehow getting or giving money to someone sort of continues to go on with Broadcom and Meta, and there's a lot of those relationships that I think are optically positive but continue to add to some longer term concerns. If one of them gets the hiccups of some kind, does it carry through to the group, which ultimately the market's going to keep a keen
Oh,
eye
yeah,
on?
they trade very similar to each other. That's exactly. All right, so we're going to go into more details, give you some of the movers and shakers in today's activity. But let me tell you what our big topic is. Folks, here's something that Jason and I spend a lot of time working with our clients on. And that is this. They spend their whole lives, their whole working lives, building up their assets, right? And however you value the asset, whether it's the house, whether it's a 401k, IRA, taxable brokerage accounts, businesses, so on and so forth. They spend their whole life building this up. But here's the question we want you to be thinking about. How safe are your assets? Are you one lawsuit away from losing it or losing all of it or a good portion of it? And for many of you, the answer is probably yes, because what we find is very few people, and definitely very few advisors, unfortunately, spend much time talking about the asset protection side of your life, right? We encourage you to build and build and build and save and save and save and invest and invest and invest. But do we ever really spend a lot of time talking about protecting what you have built? Because one of the most devastating things, Jason, you and I have seen this so many times in our life, is, let's take the business owner, right? They're the ones that are susceptible to lawsuits more so than someone that's, working a 9 to 5 job. But, they've done everything and then something happens, whether it was their own fault or just haphazard circumstances. Maybe an employee did something that resulted in the business getting sued. And therefore, of course, for most business owners, their net worth is tied up in their business and they lost it all. Right. And of course, Murphy's Law always says, oh, yeah. And they did that right before they were getting ready to sell the business, or maybe they were a couple years away from retirement. Right. Those are the things that we all need to be thinking about. And Jason and I, like I said, we spend a lot of time talking about and strategizing for our clients these asset protection strategies. So what we're going to be doing today is we've created a list of what we feel are the 7 most powerful asset protection strategies for your family, your business, your home, and most importantly, your legacy, right? Because again, many of us want to leave a legacy for our children. We want them to have a great life, and if we have money left over, we want them to be able to benefit from that. We don't want it to go out in some frivolous lawsuit. And so, what got me thinking about this, Jason, there was a really interesting article in the Reno Gazette this morning. And many of you, of course, have seen this story. You've followed it. But City of Sparks settled a lawsuit. An elderly woman, I believe she was like 88 years old. And I can't remember when this happened. It's been, I think, well over a year. But she was out front of a Sparks fire department and she was feeding the stray cats. And a firefighter came out and ended up, according to the video and all the testimony, pounding her into the ground. She got all kinds of damages or injuries, and they ended up fighting it. Well, just in the last couple of days, it was released this morning in the Reno Gazette that the city of Sparks settled with this woman for $1 million, right? They went, of course, back and forth, different settlement amounts. The city started with 500,000. Her attorney countered, I think, at 1.2, and then they settled on $1 million, and it's a done deal. But what was interesting, Jason, is the city of Sparks uses Travelers as their insurance company.
Mm-hmm.
The city of Sparks did not, according to the article, did not defend themselves. They left it up to Travelers. And this is what the reason I'm bringing up this story. This is a perfect life example of what you and I tell our clients to do. When we talk about asset protection strategies, we emphasize an umbrella policy. And we'll touch on this in a moment. But here's an example. The reason we recommend an umbrella policy for our clients is, number one, it's really cheap. I mean, you buy it in $1 million increments. Generally, you're looking $300 to $400 from what we see from our clients, from all the big insurance companies. But here's what we always tell our clients is, if you end up, having to utilize this umbrella insurance, guess what? You're not hiring your own attorneys at $300, $400, $500 an hour. Your insurance company is doing that. Why? Because they don't want to write a check for whatever, 500,000, $1 million, whatever the policy is. So they're going to send in their very best attorneys, and those attorneys are going to settle it. And what I've seen over my career is generally, if you have umbrella policy, that's where the plaintiff's attorney is going to go. And they're going to try to get that. And they're going to leave the rest of your assets alone. Well, this, Sparks situation, this was a prime example. And Sparks made it very, very clear in this Reno Gazette article that this settlement was not obviously an admission of guilt, but this settlement was completely 100% handled by the attorneys of Travelers. So I conclude that to say, exactly as we tell our clients, look, at the city of Sparks didn't foot this, I'm sure, very massive legal bill. And most importantly, Travelers is writing the $1 million check. The city of Sparks is not writing the $1 million check. So you can relay this down, right, to a personal level. And that's why, again, it got me thinking about the importance of asset protection. And just to kind of remind everybody, there's a lot of things you can do that really don't cost you a lot of money that can protect you against frivolous lawsuits. I mean, whatever the reason is, every one of you are at risk of losing something, right? That's just life. You can get into a bad car accident and the damages can be far in excess of what your auto policy covers you. Well, guess what? Something like umbrella could kick in to protect you on that. So I'm really excited, Jason, to talk about this because, again, we spend almost every show talking about building wealth and so on and so forth. Now let's spend this afternoon talking about how we protect it. All right. So we'll come back. Jason's going to go into some more details of some of the movers and shakers in today's market activity. And then bottom of the hour, when we come back from that break, we'll get into our topic, 7 steps for family asset protection. Let's turn it over to Kristen Snow. She's in the Right Now Traffic Center. Hello. Welcome back to the Jon Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH with Jason Gaunt. All right, let's talk about how this market did. Diverging markets, just a 17-point loss on the Dow Jones Industrial Average, but boy, did we have volatility, especially on the downside. I don't even bore you with all those details. NASDAQ rose 148, a 0.66% gain to our close of 22,670. S&P 500 up 26 points, or 0.40% to a close of 6,671. On the commodity side, we lost 49 cents on oil, 58.28 a barrel. Mr. Gaunt, another strong day in gold. Hopefully you'll mention a little bit more on that one. 4,391, or excuse me, 4,204.80 an ounce, and up 2 basis points on the 10-year to a yield of 4.05. All right, let's talk about some of these movers. First of all, let's chat about gold, because so many people are going, is this thing ever going to stop? And there are reasons why the strength is there.
Yeah, I mean, today was textbook lower interest rates, what should work on lower interest rate days, right? You had small caps up 1%. Sectors that outperformed were real estate, utilities, technology. Gold was higher. You saw currency moves. Yeah, I mean, so today was very much explained by the fact that rates continue to signal a clear concern of deceleration in the economy that would be met by the Fed cutting rates to help offset it, right? And if the China narrative can calm some, that could help on other fronts as well. But good numbers out of the banks. The steepening yield curve is going to continue to be favorable for banks into the futures. That's really what today was more so just a focus of maybe a more rate stimulative economy on the back of some slowing data. Clearly jobs, the two parties seem to be in no hurry to come to amends around the government being shut, whatever that means right now. But it's a rate market. That's the thing that the market's focusing on, because it doesn't really have data, right? There's no CPI we were supposed to get today, or some of the other economic
PPI
data.
is tomorrow.
Yeah, let's hope.
They're saying
right.
They're saying it's ready.
Yeah. Good. I'm excited to see it. I think they kicked it to like mid to late October for CPI, exactly. But yeah, I think that's really the I'd say today, I would say interest rates were the dominating theme.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And again, the dollar movement, of course, having an impact. Even Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, on that CNBC interview this morning that we were touching on at the beginning of the show, he was talking very favorable about moving the dollar and how that's favorable for gold and stuff like that. So
sure.
Yeah, we will continue to see, but it's mind-boggling. It is really mind-boggling. Let's talk some semiconductors. We had a big move in ASML, $26.63 gain, 2.71%. Stock closed at $1,009.81. They reported some very strong bookings in its third quarter. Again, they're in the chip making equipment manufacturing sector of the market. AMD. Do you remember when no one would touch AMD? It's like, It was all about Intel. I was thinking about that this morning. The news came out. I'm like, yeah, you couldn't pay somebody to buy AMD stock. And now here it is, $238.60, up 9.4% today to $238.60. The semiconductor index, the Philly Semiconductor Index, up 3% today. Just have semiconductor in your name, and it seems like everyone wants to buy you. It's just incredible.
Amen.
Let's watch that. Moving things over to the communication sector, great move today in Alphabet. Google, of course, up $5.52 to $251.71. Meta, $8.90 gain, $717.50, so on and so forth. So you already went over the sector. So overall, again, this train just keeps plowing away. And it was amazing, folks. You're hard at work at the job. And Jason and I sat here and we watched these trades going on. And boy, the bears, they keep trying to come out of hibernation. That's the best thing I can say. They'll try to drive this market down. And where you go, okay, coming almost like Friday, right, Jay? It was like where you had finally everything unraveled on last Friday, but they keep trying to do that this week. And so they get it down. It looks like, okay, here we go on the downside. And then here come the bulls, and they start bidding this thing up. These algorithms are just, man, it's so hard to predict. I mean, I know that's kind of your old world and stuff, that the quant trading and stuff, but boy, it can be really frustrating if you're a day trader right now trying to figure out, because again, it sets up for a fall and then boom, it comes back, or it's running up and then all of a sudden, boom, here comes the sell off, right?
Yeah, and it's flow of funds too, right? It's just a function that there's more buyers than sellers right now, and that seems simplistic, but it's true. And you got to follow the money. You've got, as earnings go away, these banks will become buyers of their own shares, right? That's seasonality. You're getting into the best 6 months of the year here, end of October, right? And who got bearish and were worried about the market going down, given that September, August tend to be bad times of the year, really didn't get much of a pullback to buy into. And then they're forced to chase. And that's what you're starting to see now. And that's only going to continue to accelerate if the market goes higher. The buyers are higher. And that's how this tape's going to be.
Love it. Great summary. Want to bring you some news going on in the after hours right now. It just came out regarding Salesforce. Stock is moving very nice on the after hour session. Remember, this is a Dow component. Right now, let's tell you what it did in the regular session, down $3.19, 1.33%, lost to 236.58. Coming across the tapes right now, stock's up $9.39, 3.97% to 245.97. Company just said they now expect over $60 billion in 2030. I believe that would be in the revenue side of things. That's well above the $58.37 billion consensus among Wall Street. I mean, that's going pretty far out in 2030, but the guidance excludes impact from $8 billion pending acquisition of a data management company, so on and so forth. Looks like Mark Benioff is out there on stage doing a song and dance, and investors like what they're hearing so far. Because remember, folks, this stock is down about 29% year to date, where you got the Nasdaq up roughly 17%. So it has definitely been an underperformer. I'm surprised you haven't. Have you ever used Salesforce in any of the firms you've been with?
No, I haven't. I mean, I know of firms that use it for sure.
Yeah, they do. I tried it a few times, and I don't know. It's a beast of a program. And I mean that positively. It just does so much. They just keep reinventing. And I think they announced the other day that they're laying off a pretty good chunk of people, and because of AI, and they're obviously getting huge into the AI. And remember, if you don't know what Salesforce is, they're a CRM, or customer relation management software that every business needs a CRM, it seems like. And this is where you keep your clients' data, but you can mine it for all kinds of information. It's a critical aspect of just about any business, and they're a huge market, if not the market leader. They're right up there at the top. So it's interesting to see if the stock continues to bid up in the after hours session. All right, you are now up to date on what happened to the market, what's going on in the after hours. Now let's get back to again what we're going to be talking about when we come back. 7 steps to protect your family assets. Right? You got to think about these. You're spending all these hard days working, all these years. Let's give you some strategies to protect them. We've got them for you. Let's turn it over to Jack Sabin. First of all, he's got news, traffic, and weather. Hello, Jack. Welcome back to the Jon Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH with Jason Gaunt. Once again, we finished down 17 on the Dow, rose 1 from the Nasdaq, and a 27-point gain on the S&P 500. All right, we're going to shift you from the growth mode of your life to now the asset protection side of things. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we're going to share with you what we feel are 7 powerful asset protection strategies every family should know to safeguard their home, their investments, from lawsuits, from creditors, etc. And I guess most importantly, Jason, from life's unexpected, which none of us can obviously predict when that's going to happen, but we've all either had it happen to ourselves or seen people that's impacted. So there's only so much you can do, but I think we got, like I said, 7 very powerful strategies to do with it. So let's get the ball rolling, my friend. Let's talk a little bit about some of the basics of estate planning, i.e. the creation of a revocable trust. What the heck is it? Why is this an asset protection strategy?
Yeah, I mean, this is the cornerstone of any estate plan, right? This gives us the ability to really delineate assets that are not held inside of an IRA, but homes and taxable assets. You can really get a good path for your beneficiaries after you're gone. More often than not, these are set up to make your end of life plans nice and cut and dry for your beneficiaries. Instead of probate costs and fees and confusion, you create a family trust. Your assets are held inside that family trust. Just keeping it, there's lots of complex trusts, but overall a revocable living trust that allows you to designate beneficiaries, allows you to have a nice document that's immutable, that will survive long after you're gone, for your beneficiaries and folks to take your assets and do with them as you would like, versus a will that, by and large, as we've explained before, is a letter of instruction to a probate judge, and people can come and wave their hand and say, hey, Some of those assets are mine versus where if they're in a trust, there's a lot of comfort in knowing that your wants and needs and desires will be carried through after you're gone. And that's what a revocable living trust does. Recommend them all the time, and they're simple to do. They take a little bit of thought, but overall, that's really the start of the building block for sure.
It really is. Yeah, it's one of the misconceptions, Jason, that people have is that there's lawsuit protection when they have a living trust, and that's not the case, right? You hit it right on the head. But again, it's probate avoidance. It's laying out your life while you're still alive after you are gone, right? And none of us want to be able to put that burden on our spouse or on our family, saying, geez, what did dad want to have happen with this amount of money or this account, or what was his favorite charity? But folks, two misconceptions, then we'll move on to our second point. And that is, number one, I need to be wealthy to have a living trust. That is not the case. Most estate planning attorneys will recommend if you have $20,000 or more of assets, you need a living trust, not a will, but a living trust. Okay. So the other misconception, people go, oh, geez, maybe I don't have that. Well, factor in life insurance proceeds. Even though we receive life insurance proceeds, if we're a beneficiary, tax-free, it's still counted in the aggregate value of your estate. So you may not have much. Maybe you're a young person starting out, but yeah, you bought a $300,000 term policy through your employer for $20 a month. Guess what? Whoever's going to get that money, that could be a problem, right? Or if you're going to inherit that money, if you're a beneficiary, that could throw you into, immediate estate planning needs. There's this, and we'll do more shows on this coming up very soon.
Yeah.
But just remember, a living trust is one of the very best things that you can ever do. And like I said, we're going to go into much more detail here in a few weeks on that. But Jason, you mentioned one thing. I want to throw this out one more time: the privacy side of things. No one besides, you don't want the government and judges and attorneys taking your hard-earned assets, which will happen, in which could happen, I should say, if you don't have a living trust. But also, it's the privacy issue, right? If your estate goes to probate, that's an open public forum. People can walk in off the street and go, hey, what did Jason Gaunt have? I heard that dude on the radio. I bet he was a rich son of a gun. Let me hear what he had. You can't do that when you have a revocable trust. It's all private, right? Because there is no probate and so on and so forth. So those of you that like your privacy, which I know a lot of you do, that's just one of the many reasons. And then we throw in things like medical directives. I know Jason very well. He's my best friend in the world, but I don't know your life. I don't know your wishes, right? If I was your child and you're like, holy moly, last thing in the world I want is to be left on life support. No one knows that, right? But if you have a living trust, you have what's called the medical directive. Same thing on there. Tell real quick, Jason, how we deal with a living trust in our office when it comes to the power of attorney, the financial power of attorney.
It's a must-have too, where you can utilize that for spouses if one of your spouses is, incapacitated or unable to act. If you don't have that in place, you're in a tough spot. Whereas most trusts, as you're setting them up, power of attorney are included in those documents as well.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. So again, the list is a mile long. Just consider this as one of the key asset protection strategies. Again, want to avoid there's no asset protection from a lawsuit, but asset protection as far as passing your wealth on to the people that you want it to go to, or charities, etc. So like I said, we'll go into much more detail here in a few weeks because we're putting together a great program on this. All right, let's go to number 2. You need to establish an LLC or a family limited partnership. I'm going to kind of push aside the family limited partnership, or FLP, because we could do an entire show on that. It's a very complicated area. But the LLC, those of you that have listened to us for years, you know how much of a proponent we are of an LLC. And the best way I can tell you about this is this: anything that you do in your life that has risk, you want to get it out of your overall estate. And the best analogy I always tell people is, visualize a big circle, right? That's your entire estate. And let's say your estate's worth $1 million, but let's say you have a rental, right? Well, if you don't have an LLC, that rental is in that big circle, meaning if you got sued by your tenant on that rental, let's say you decide to go play electrician and replace the outlet in the rental, and little Johnny, plugs his toy into it and gets electrocuted and dies, you're going to have a lawsuit on your hands. Well, guess what? First thing an attorney's going to do, they're going to do an asset search on you. Number one, you have to list all of your assets. Number two, they'll do their own search. And with today's technology, you can find out what anybody owns. And so attorney's going to come to you and go, hey, guess what, Jason? I see you have a net worth of $1 million+. And this rental where my, tenant's child just died. Guess what? That's inside this big circle, meaning it's, essentially commingled with all of your other assets. Guess what, Jason? Not only am I going to sue you for that rental for my client, I'm going to go after all of your other assets. And there's nothing you can do unless you have a really good attorney to fight that. So how do we do it? Really simple. We are so fortunate to live in a state that makes setting up an LLC a very, very simple process. I mean, we can set it up in an hour. I mean, if that it's as fast as we can go through the paperwork. It's very simple to set up an LLC. So anything such as this rental example, you want to hold that in an LLC. Same scenario happens, the lawsuit. Guess what? Now that attorney can only go after that rental in this example, right? If you lose, okay, big deal. At least they can't come after your big circle where your bank accounts are and so on and so forth. That's just a very, very simple explanation of it. But bottom line, the LLC shields you from personal liability. How we help our clients, besides on the real estate side, we have a lot of clients that will retire and then go, you know what, it's not really what I want. My company just offered me to come back as a consultant. So what Jason and I will do, we'll help them set up an LLC for this new consulting business. They then get paid as a 1099 employee by their former employer. That now opens up all kinds of tax deductions to them. We can set up a retirement plan for them. We can do all kinds of things on top of, again, asset protection. I mean, I personally, I don't know, Bailey, how many LLCs do I own? I've lost track, to be honest. There's like
X
7 or
is
10
greater
over.
than 5.
Yeah, great. Yeah, let's just say greater than 5. And so it's just an absolute must. And again, our state makes it very simple. It's not expensive, $750 or so to set one up yourself or hire an attorney to do it, a little bit more money. But it is an absolute must and one of the most simplistic but powerful asset protection strategies, in my opinion. Let's go to something else the office deals with a lot, Jason, the proper titling and beneficiary designation.
Absolutely. And this is something that we go through with our account reviews. We put all the beneficiaries in front of our clients each time they meet with us to make sure that everything is in line with their desires. But yeah, I mean, having primary beneficiaries on assets, having contingent beneficiaries on assets, a transfer on death helps you with individual accounts. If you haven't yet set up that trust and yet still want something to go around probate, a TOD will do that for you. Joint tenancy, we're a community property state, so there's some nuances around that. So reviewing and making sure that the beneficiaries and or other titles for your accounts are set up correctly is paramount for sure. And that's something that you should be reviewing yourself or with your advisor as often as you can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And again, as we get into the end of the year and we start going through end of the year checklists and things like that, that's one thing we always remind the clients of is review your beneficiaries, your life insurance, obviously your IRAs, your 4K at work, anything that you have a beneficiary designation. It's a great time to do that because last thing, again, kind of like estate planning, last thing you want is your money upon your passing to go to someone or somewhere that you didn't intend it to. And where we see a big problem is when you get a divorce, right? You forget to remove that ex-husband or that ex-wife from your K beneficiary designation form or your IRA, and then you pass it. And guess what?
And you have to
Money goes to
wait.
the ex when you
Yeah.
wanted
And
to
you
go
have
to
to
the new
wait
wife.
till after you're divorced or they have to
Yes.
sign to be removed, just as a little tip for anyone
Yep.
out there who's
Yep.
thinking
And
about said
follow your
changes.
divorce decree. Follow your divorce decree. Bottom line. All right. Next one, we're going to cover when we come back. And this is another great thing about being a resident of the state of Nevada, and that is this thing called a homestead exemption. Jason, if I could tell you that you could shelter $605,000 of equity for, let's call it 15, $25 somewhere around there, you think that's a pretty good deal?
I think it's awesome.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Very good. Well, we'll
Let's talk
tell
about it.
you in a moment what we're talking about with the homestead exemption. Let's turn it over to Kristen Stowe to wrap us up in the Right Out Traffic Center. Hello, Kristen. Welcome back to the Jon Sanchez Show on News Talk 780 KOH. All right, as usual, I think we're going to run out of time to get through our 7 steps to family asset protection. If you'd like a copy of this, just send an email to our marketing director, Bailey, at sanchezgaunt.com, Gaunt, and she'll forward this list on over to you. All right, so we've talked about number 1, create a revocable trust. Number 2, establish an LLC or a family limited partnership for at-risk assets. Number 3, Jason just touched on the proper titling and beneficiary designation. And number 4, all right, so I teased Jason. I said, Jason, for $15, if I said pay me 15, I'm going to protect $605,000 of an asset, sound like a good deal? And he goes, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what we're talking about, of course, is again, this is one of the great things about being a Nevada resident. It's called the Nevada homestead exemption. And what is it? Well, many of you, when you bought your home, you probably were told by an escrow company or you got a lovely email advertising, hey, we can do this for you for, $100, $150. No, 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 no. You don't need to do that. Go to the website of our friends over at Washoe County Recorder, download a homestead exemption form, file it immediately. Now, what is it? Homestead exemption in the state of Nevada, and it varies. This amount I'm going to share with you varies from state to state. So I'm just going to talk Nevada. Will protect the equity in your home up to $605,000. I mean, Jason, when I started talking about these, it was like 200 or 300,000. It just keeps going up. $5,000 of the equity in your home will be protected from creditors other than the IRS. They're the only ones that can pierce this. So again, back to the lawsuit. You get sued on something, first thing the attorney does, they're going to go after your house if you don't have it protected with a homestead exemption. You have that homestead exemption, even if you have more than 605,000 in equity, many times attorneys that I've talked to, they won't even mess with it. It's too complicated. What does it cost, Jason, to file a homestead exemption with the Washoe County Recorder?
$14.
Oh, 14. I'm sorry. Boy,
I
something
mean,
went down a place. There you
yeah,
go.
that's a
$14.
big
It
difference.
literally is that simple, folks. It will again go on your title or on your title. Very, very simple process. One little trick I want to share with everybody is if you file your homestead exemption, get it on there. So when you get your living trust created, you want to do it then. If you have never done it, a lot of times many attorneys will make sure that gets done when you do your living trust. But here's a problem many people are not aware of. And that is this. If you get a new loan on your house, so let's say it's a refinance or whatever the case is, or you go from your current titling single or joint tenants to your trust, many times that if you had the homestead exemption, it will fall off, especially in the refinance. I see that over and over again. I've seen good escrow companies will tell the client, hey, your homestead exemption fell off, go file a new one. I've seen it many times where people, Jason, have been, hey, I filed my homestead exemption when I asked them years ago. I go, hey, did you ever refinance your house? Oh, yeah, a couple of times. And we'll pull it up on the county recorder's website and they don't have it. Why? Because it falls off when you get that new loan. So remember, you can only have it on one. It can only be on your primary residence. But if anything changes on your loan, again, great to go back and refile, pay the $14 and get it back on there. And just remember, folks, this is one of the simplest things you can do from an asset protection standpoint. Again, spend $14 and be able to protect up to 605,000 of your equity.
And also,
all right,
real
my
quick,
friend,
too,
wrap us up. Go ahead.
yeah, I just want to point out along the recorder line. I'm sure people have seen those commercials about, oh my gosh, they're going to steal the deed to your house and create all this debt. And so in Washoe County, you can swing by our office. We're 9160 Double Diamond Parkway, right across from the DMV. I've got QR codes that you literally just click on to register with Washoe County, and they'll text you anytime anything changes on your specific deed.
Great point.
Awesome to have. So if you have any concern about it, you can reach out to them directly, or like I said, swing by our office. We've got a whole stack of these that they gave to me directly when I did my homestead about a year ago.
Love it. All right. We only got about 30 seconds left. Umbrella insurance, right? We touched on that. Talk to your, you need to have your autos and your home insured by the same insurance company in most cases. So if you have that, go talk to your insurance agent, have them run you a quote. You buy it in $1 million increments. The amount is based upon, how risky your life is, so on and so forth. But again, it's the best form of insurance, in my opinion, that a person could get. It's, again, so very, very affordable, $300 or $400 per million. And again, it protects above and beyond your auto and your home policy. So crazy things in life. Many of you are skiers. Let's say you crash somebody into a tree and they die. Auto or home's not going to cover it. That's where your umbrella could step in. Just these, again, that's where the term umbrella comes from. It covers over your auto and your home. Also, most people, Jason, have what, $300,000 liability on their insurance. A $300,000 lawsuit's nothing anymore. Usually it's multi-million. Your insurance carrier writes a check for $300,000. You're on your own for legal representation, etc. Umbrella, they send in their attorneys. They write the check if they lose the case. So one of the very best things you can do. That was a lot of fun. I wish we could have got through the rest of the list. But again, send an email, Bailey@SanchezGaunt.com. She'll get that list over to you. Great job, my friend. We'll do it again tomorrow on the Jon Sanchez Show. God bless.